Then, of course, the second chance for all the supporting cast members. I don't even know what to say in terms of a second chance for X-23. What the fuck are you talking about? Logan is like hyper
Yeah, like
respected. I,
yeah, exactly. It was the ending of that character, and she had been given a chance to live, but then you wrote it so that she got pruned and sent to a different universe, like in the void, to then have to get rescued out of it to get a second chance. Like that's just some stuff you invented. And then, of course, when you apply it to, again, Gambit,
well,
like, what?
yeah. Gambit 0 chances, Blade 3 chances. So second chance is
There's,
kind of odd for them. But then
and
Elektra
Elektra kind of
two
got her second
films.
chance with her movie. So,
I don't
what are we even
even.
talking about?
It's just filled with like, what the fuck are you trying to say? Where is this going? And if you want to be as simple as, well, just getting you fuck up one time and then you go for a second time and you don't fuck up that time. Okay. It's getting so broad that I don't even know that we can draw much of anything out of it. Which takes us to the credits, which is they give you a collection of behind the scenes from all of the Fox universe sort of superhero films. A very broad selection.
Mm-hmm.
Set to Green Day, which was a choice. Um,
Yeah.
this, not speaking of the music, of course, the scenes themselves were very sort of. I don't know how to put it. There's many feelings were had when watching this, and it crystallized for me when in the selection they play Wolverine in Logan saying, "This is what it feels like." So, why don't we talk about Logan in relation to this film?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay. So I would absolutely be counted as part of the generation, as several people would, of having grown up with Wolverine and X-Men and stuff. You know, a lot of people did, obviously. I'm squarely in that generation. I was 7 when they put out X-Men 1, so it's like perfect timing. And it was amazing. Everyone knows that. First one was awesome, second one was awesome, third one, not so much. You know? So,
It has some good memes in it, though.
but I still feel like I didn't really want to miss any installment. I was always very interested to see what they would have happen next because a lot of it was just fucking
Yeah.
stellar.
Well, I think it was just because sometimes they'd surprise you. Like, First Class kind of came along and it's like, hey, this is, like, good. You know?
Yeah,
After Origins and X-Men 3, they'd just occasionally come along and be like, hey, I like that.
you get ups and downs, experiments. It was part of the
Yeah,
era of
very much.
experimentation, right? And it's a framework for everything to come in a lot of ways. Not to exclude, of course, Blade and its influence and everything. It's just that X-Men would have changed a lot again. Same with Spider-Man at the time. You know, it's all moving in particular
Well, they're
directions.
the films that paved the way for the MCU. You know, the MCU wouldn't
Exactly.
have existed if not for those films.
So, when looking at like the attempt reboots, spin-offs, crossovers, desperately trying to find anything that works, and they go all over the place. We have hits and misses, blah blah blah. The entire continuity of the Fox thing. I've talked about how it's kind of funny in one of the older EFAPs. We talk about the nature of the continuity of the Fox universe being in a complete shambles compared to the MCU, which is quite funny to look back on because now Fox is far more coherent than the MCU. Not even close.
Yeah, which is pretty funny.
Um, Obviously, attaching them at the hip makes the question a lot more complicated, but we'll ignore that for now. Uh, the journey was like kind of is running out of steam, right? When you hit the Wolverine or X-Men apocalypse, you start to wonder exactly what the plan is because they've not. It's like, where are we going and what are we doing exactly? And the films are starting to get, I would say, less cultural relevance and a lot more of people being like, are we just sort of shooting in
Well,
the dark? Are we trying to make something work? We don't even know if it will.
it was like, in a sense, Days of Future Past felt like a full circle. Days of Future Past has got its problems, but it's a film that I definitely enjoy, and it felt like kind of a full circle moment. But then they decided, well, no, but we want to keep making X-Men films. So yeah, X-Men
Yeah.
Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, they wanted to keep going with that. There was obviously Deadpool was happening as well, and then Logan uh
When
coming along.
when Logan came out, it really felt like the end of the story, not just of Logan, but of the Fox universe to some extent. We of course got Dark Phoenix, but I would argue that could have been shuffled out at any kind of time. It's not like there was a meta story with that one. It's just not a
Wow, that
great
was very much
story.
a case of it was the ending of the X-Men universe because that was they'd been bought and it was
Yeah.
over and they were done. Whereas Logan felt much more like the actual ending, and Deadpool kind of existed in his own world, even though he's
Yeah,
part of that world.
I appreciate a final attempt at bringing a close as well to what was the reboot universe, because there was 4 entries to that in total, technically, right? First Class, Days of Future Past,
First,
Apocalypse, Dark
yeah,
Phoenix.
Apocalypse, Dark
That's a lot of
Phoenix.
stuff.
Yeah,
You know, so like I get that it deserves its final hurrah at an attempt. You know, Dark Phoenix has got his own things. Logan having released 2 years prior did, you know, it was something I would still very much appreciate. How do I put this? Logan spends the movie surviving, right? It's a thing that a lot of stories have done. The situation between him and Professor X is horrendous. They're like managing to. I think that's captured very well in the film. The way they live is not fucking fun. Both of them seem at their wits' end, and they both recognize the situation as that of they're just trying to stay alive long enough to make enough money to escape the world, almost, right? To get on the boat. And so when X-23 comes in and gives them both pretty much a nightmare to deal with, you still have the she like represents the future of a future they didn't even think was possible. They didn't think that was gonna be a potential. I think that's like Professor X is so excited about it because of the fact that they both thought that mutants were done, like extinct.
yeah.
And at a certain point in the story, about halfway through, it's pretty clear that Charles, the way he operates in that film is almost like he doesn't want to acknowledge all of the actual incredible, crazy danger if it means you can't live, right? We've come across stories that it's like surviving and living are 2 different things. And he says, this is what life looks like. This is what living looks like. It's something like that. He says, this is like living, this having a home. This is what it is, what they have with that family for the brief time they have it. And he says, you could still do this. Like, it's not over. It's not done. And you know, Logan doesn't really take to that at all. He's like, eh. And it's because he's become so cynical and jaded. He's like, there's no room for anything close to what Charles is talking about. He's like delusional. And of course, he's got the brain issues anyway, so it's kind of melds in. And all he wants to do is just try and make them survive. And by the time you reach the end of the movie, right after Professor X has died, Logan wants to leave once he thinks he's done, pragmatically speaking, everything he needs to with Laura. And he wants to consider whether or not he's going to kill himself, right? That's why he has the adamantium bullet. It's awkward for him to talk about it, but let's be honest, he's gradually poisoned. There's not much to live for, that sort of aspect. There's a lot of discussions to be had. The movie is pretty dark. It's not a happy movie. But by the time you get to the end, I'd say you'd have enough development between him and Laura that he cares about her certainly no less than one might about a daughter, because not only about the biological connection that she very well probably has his DNA to have gotten the particular mutant gene, but how much he's had to care about her, and that there's like very few of them even left in the world. It's that sort of story. We see it in a lot of things. I believe it's called Wolf and Cub. I keep saying this every time. I haven't actually checked. In any case, connections are drawn pretty quickly when it's stuff like that. You know, and he sacrifices himself a couple of times until the last one actually takes. It's not, you can't keep standing in the way of bullets, so to speak, without actually dying. This film is like his whole health bar is coming down further and further and further. There are 2 lines at the end of Logan as he's dying. He says, "So this is what it feels like." Is the second one, and that one I think refers to a lot of what Charles was talking about. Right, it's been forever since he's had a life to live. It's always been horror, chaos, death, for the sole reprieve of just going on. With Laura and the future of the mutants, there's a chance to save what the dream of like having mutants be able to prosper without getting hunted down in horrible ways and stuff. It's what Charles was talking about the whole time. It's like actually seeing the potential, especially with what's his name, Doctor something. The bad guys in that movie, they're all dead at that point. So it's like there's actually a real thing of maybe they can actually live and make a new life, that sort of thing. So future generation of mutants is what I'm getting at. And there's a chance to save what was lost, fight for the living. And in a sense, he's experiencing the feeling of living through dying. It's like he's going to die so that he's dying as a result of living. Logan, he's running out of like his ability to heal and everything else because he's also kind of relieved about it to have done it in aid of bringing something to the potential that he and Charles both wanted, which makes him feel at home, right? It's the kind of thing that Charles was talking about. He's got lots of closure, lots of love, despite the fact that it's like a horrible scene. And at the same time, I think the line actually refers as well to him feeling what death feels like, because that's not something he would ever have experienced before. So it's like a realization, and he can finally reach it. And in a sense, it's a relief, right? But at the very least, it's new. Very, very meaningful. The former line, however, "Don't be what they made you," is one that hits particularly hard because I think it summarizes like the whole life that he's had. Obviously, I don't know as much from the source material, but certainly from the films. He's got Wolverine is one of the people that fights like between good and bad decisions. A lot of the time it can be made out of just not caring or not sure if he wants to move in a particular way, angry or calm down, that sort of stuff. Countless people trying to push and pull him, like Charles, Magneto, Stryker. Everyone is trying to use him for whatever goals they have, ultimately pulling him all over the place. And "Don't be what they made you" could refer not just to the people who put the adamantium in the bones and stuff, but just everybody who ever wants Wolverine / this mutant that's powerful to represent or to do a particular thing. And so he's tried to live his life evading that and making the choices that he thinks are right, or even the ones that just match what he wants, but that now it's the most important thing to express to her to do that as well. Don't be the horrible monster, creature, whatever that they make you. So she's like the next generation. Brutal upbringing, chance to sort of live life with far less influence of the people who would bring her into like a war or something, hopefully. And you could say like she's truly his daughter in the sense of not just biologically, but the life that she's going to live is so similar to his. And so those two things being the last things that he says, I think are like perfect, like actually pitch perfect. I wouldn't have changed them for anything.
Agreed.
Possibly the most meaningful scene in like all of Fox X-Men. It was very impressive. I couldn't stop thinking about everything that it meant,
Enough to make a man cry.
Logan gets the respectful ending that recognizes and understands like the power of his story throughout all the films, even the shit ones, right? Because you can trace the storyline, whether they fully connect or not, right? There's issues, but he's given great respect as what the impact of those films had on the audience and films that came after them. He was a hero. His time has passed. It was over. Incredibly special. And to close, as you mentioned earlier, on a grave with the cross turning to an X is, I would describe as incredibly...
that is also perfect in terms of iconography. The imagery is amazing.
Yeah. I would describe it as incredibly melancholic because it feels tragic, yet entirely warranted and respectful. It's like really sad, but perfect. Right move at the right time, and it ends the story. Don't be what they made you. So, we fast forward to 2024, and we have both Deadpool and Wolverine being made to appear as fucking flanderized clowns that Marvel's forced them to be. We have the foul corporate trash gods doing everything they can to push, pull, tear apart any sense of meaning either of these characters could hold, because they're desperate to float a dying franchise with substance that they don't even have any understanding of. They didn't create themselves. They don't fucking know what it is. They are selling the ghost of like a bygone era, a world that the best they can do is photocopy it and hold it up and be like, you guys like this? They will go back to the grave, they'll dig up Logan's bones, and with no prompt from any sense of story, they'll actually like entertain you by bashing his corpse into the fucking screen. But don't worry, because while pissing over every last literal fucking shred of meaning they could ever have stolen from another artist's work, they will talk about how cringe they are, how disrespectful they are, in order to pander to the ends of the fucking earth, to explain to you how weird and fucked up and nonsensical and disrespectful and gross and downright retarded it is, to shit down your throat, while stapling their assholes to your lips and wolfing down fucking laxatives. Like, it's the most nonsense shit. And all to prevent the death of their pathetic, failing corpse of a universe. A death they have so thoroughly earned, yet thanks to their empire managed to stave off with a literal corpse of beloved heroes. Stories being all getting torn to shreds and made into a joke. Logan is back, everyone. He's back. The anchor being is back. The character you know and love so well. Every fucking characteristic down to the actor himself is back. And they'll use him till he's 90. Don't think about what meaning you could draw out of Logan. Doesn't fucking matter. Thank you so much. Enjoy the future. I don't like this film.